Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. While you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's another Saturday. Like I said, it always seems like the week goes so fast, and then we're right back here doing this again. So, seems like we were just here. Definitely want to thank you guys all for coming in. And also, kind of want to welcome the first few in here for the metal positions here. Looks like we got Race Fan with the gold coming in saying, good evening, Rob. Then we have Deb from Sacramento coming in with the silver, saying, hey, Rob G, I emailed you the trivia list for tonight. Let's talk about that in a minute, Deb from Sac. But thanks for coming in. She gets the silver. And then we got Puck Elf coming from all the way on the other side of the globe with that bronze. So appreciate you coming in. We're going to welcome everybody else in here. But real quick, Deb from SAG, you did email trivia list, and we do have some there. So if we go there tonight, then we will definitely access that data. But I don't know how fair it would be, Deb. If you know the questions and the answers, can you really play? I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But we're going to be welcoming in our guest a little bit later today, Lee Strauss. He is a Bigfoot researcher, UFO experiencer, abduction experiencer as well. We'll get to talking about some really good stuff tonight. And then who knows for hour 3? We just don't know. You know, we could have a one of our usuals come in, or I don't know. We'll see. But Sunday, tomorrow, is a holiday here in the United States. So tomorrow will be an archive show. So I'm going to go in the vault, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, going to pick the best episode, or if you have one that you remember that you would like to see again, let me know before the end of the show, and I'll make that happen. Otherwise, we'll just pick one of the many great options that we have in the archive. So with that being said, let me go ahead and welcome everybody else in here. We do have Mothman coming in saying second wrench in. Good evening, Woo Tribe. Thanks for coming in, Mothman, Chap Campbell. Coming on in, H398J. Okay, not sure what that means, but we're going to have to look that up. Appreciate you coming on in. We got Corey coming on in tonight. Thanks for showing up. You the man, Rob G. Thank you for providing this coverage. Couldn't be done without you guys. So you thank you for showing up, Corey, to allow us to provide this coverage for you tonight. And who else do we have here? We got Roger Murray coming in saying Happy Easter, which will be tomorrow, guys, which is why we won't be doing the show or while we're playing the archive. Says, rest in peace, actor Louis Gossett Jr. Passed away age 87. Yeah, R.I.P. Louis Gossett Jr. So many great films that I can remember that he played in, and definitely want to say rest in peace to Louis Gossett Jr. Who else do we have here? We have Mary R. Mary R. saying hello, everyone. Thank you for coming on in, Mary R. JSCO77 coming in saying partners. I'm reading that right. Yep, definitely. Partners. Hey, partner. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Catherine Four Feathers. Thank you for coming in. Greetings, everyone. First time in this podcast. Blue Energy sent Lee. Enjoy. Oh, wow. Well, thanks for coming on in, Catherine Four Feathers. Way we do it here at Space Out Radio, just so you know, Saturday and Sunday normally is the after-hour show. Runs from 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Pacific. Sunday, we have the Crypted Huntress, Jessica Jones. She runs from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. right before the after hours. So you watch her, then you come right on over to the after hours on Sunday. Monday through Friday, you got Dave Scott running the Wu Train, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight, Monday through Friday. So what that means is 7 days a week of content here all the time, every day, except for tomorrow. Well, even tomorrow, because we're running the archive. You can catch something going on here 7 days a week at Spaced Out Radio for sure. So thanks for coming in and welcome to the show. Let's see, we got Simply Coco coming in saying good evening. Thanks for coming in, Simply Coco. Thanks for joining. Who else do we have here? Dino Bravo fan. Hey, from the East Coast, all the way over here to the West Coast. Dino Bravo fan, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Who else do we have? Kurt M. Kurt M has showed up. Thank you for coming on in, Kurt M. We appreciate you coming in. We got Brian and Chewy Go Hiking. Thanks for coming in. Seems like a new name. If you are, welcome. Would appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe and come back and join us again. We do this all the time. Anna Boline. It's showtime, boys and girls. Thank you for coming in on in, Anna. We do appreciate you. We got Political Foolishness. Howdy, fine peeps. Thanks for coming in. We got Aaron Baca. Keep it G-rated. I have my son Quentin with me. Thanks. Thanks for coming in, Aaron Baca. We do appreciate you showing up here tonight. Aloha, Dave. Saludos a todos de Mexico. Greetings to everyone from Mexico. Appreciate the bilingual data here, man. Keeping it bilingual always. We love it. Who else do we have here? We got Carl Bittner. Carl Bittner is showing up saying, howdy there, Rob, and all of you spacey after-hour spaced out peeps. Thank you for coming on in, Carl Bittner. We appreciate you. Let's see. Yes, Mr. Rob G in the pilot seat on the weekends definitely is when I take over. And let's see, who else do we have? Paradox Fossils, Alan. Saying SOR, thanks for coming on in, Paradox Fossils. We appreciate you showing up. And can't pronounce this, but you know who you are with the 8-ball emoji. Thank you for coming on in. We do appreciate you showing up. Let's see. Facebook user Matt Love from Jacksonville. Okay, we love it. Appreciate you coming on in. Facebook user, thanks for joining the show. Let's get down the list here. We got Susan Alloway. Susan Alloway, thanks for coming on in. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's see. Brown Dwarf. Oh, yeah. Digging the Camel Bandana, Rob G. Appreciate you, Brown Dwarf. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see who we got here. Donald Dean, XL500. Appreciate you. Said, what did the ghost say to the bee? Boo bee. It's funny. It's funny. It's a good joke. Appreciate the joke and appreciate you coming on in. Richard Hauser saying hello from Winter Haven, Florida. All right. Thanks for coming in, Richard Hauser. We appreciate you. Let's see. Going on down the list. Now there could be a separate Facebook user. This is a Facebook user saying hello, Robbie G. Just in case, I know we have multiple Facebook users. Let's see. Okay. This is what I'm talking about, Deb. Okay. I'm not playing Rob G. Obviously, I did the list for you guys. Okay, awesome. So I don't want anybody saying, "Hey, Deb made the list." So yeah, we got Deb sending some really awesome trivia stuff here that we might be able to get to it tonight. Who else do we have in here? Hank von Krenenberg. Thanks for coming on in, Hank. Saying hello, everyone. Little Mac 86. Little Mac, welcome. Everybody knows Little Mac, worldwide famous character here from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Who else do we have here? We got, let's see, Kevin Kennedy, TMI. Thank you for coming on in, Kevin. We got Doug Shelby. Hey, Captain Rob G and all my fellow SOR heads. Appreciate you coming in, Doug Shelby. Crypted Search saying hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in, Crypted Search. Stargazer, thank you for coming on in tonight. We appreciate you showing up. Jennifer Patterson, thanks for coming on in. Susan Place, hello, everyone. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming in, Susan. And we are almost down here. Ron J, Jenny, your 1 hour show. Appreciate you coming on in, Ron J. Thanks for joining us. Juliana McGill saying, Mr. Rob G, thank you for coming on in, Juliana. We got SJ. Hello, Team Spaced Out Radio. Thanks for coming in, SJ. We do appreciate you. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman, appreciate you. And interview will begin right after the SOR Weekly Review. Let's see. Eternity Eternal, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Rob G. And let's see, who else do we have? We are pretty much at the end. We are Tom Sanger, thanks for coming in. Political Foolishness, thanks for coming in. Eric the Preacher, Eric Markham, thank you so much for coming on in tonight. And that'll be it. So, as we always do every single week, let's go ahead, get ready to jump into the SOR time machine and check out the week that was Spaced Out Radio. In case you missed any of this stuff, you'll be able to go into our archives, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, to catch up on anything that you missed. So let's go ahead and add that here to the show. And here we go.
Glimmer Man?
I wish we knew what the Glimmer Man was. There's a lot of theories as to what it is. People say that it may be an actual alien, like the Predator alien, or it may be some type of cloaked cryptid. I mean, it's a whole number of things it could be. But for the most part, what people see is something that it looks like a semi-invisible form. Many times people see them in trees. Sometimes they see them on the ground walking, but many times it's bigger than a human for the most part. But, you know, the glassine-like shimmering effect is distinguishable, and it sets itself apart from the background, and people can see it, but they just don't know what it is. But for the most part, it's got a humanoid type of form to it, and for whatever reason, they just seem to show up out of nowhere. I wish I could give you a better answer, but we just don't know what it is.
Now, when I think Glimmer Man, it takes me back to the movie Predator, where the predator creature had this glimmering image that it could camouflage itself within the forest and make itself invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what people are seeing?
That's exactly the way people are describing it. Exactly how they describe it. Yeah.
Okay, so the fact that we have people seeing these things, how often are they being seen?
I probably get 1 to 2 a week, if not more. Just depends. Um, I did send you 2 examples for the show, but I find, it's not always people contacting me.
You've worked closely at Skinwalker Ranch. You have worked Mount Wilson and the entire Uinta Basin. And we want to give a shout out to everybody listening in on our radio station in Vernal, Utah, at channel 94X. Hi, Charlie and the team. Good to see you, and thank you for broadcasting our show. For the people out there who know what the high strangeness is, compared to all of us who are way out in the wilderness of the rest of the continent here and maybe the planet, what makes the Uinta Basin so special?
To me, I think that it was because of the ancient Lake Bonneville. There was a waterway that came up from the coast of California all the way up through Nevada, through Arizona, all the way up into Utah, right where Skinwalker Ranch is. On a lot of these places used to be like giant fjords and marshland. And that meant that for tens of thousands of years, we often think of, like, when we think of ancient esoteric locations, we think of places like Egypt or Machu Picchu or something, Teotihuacan or something like that. We think of these giant pyramid locations, and we kind of forget some of the really ancient, like, trade routes and global trade routes that were going on at the same time as all the pyramids, and maybe even before the pyramids were built. Like some of the petroglyphs that we find across southern Utah and into Nevada, think of, like, for people who believe in the Bible, go back to the time of when Moses left Egypt and then go 6,000 years before that. And that's how old some of these carvings are in Utah. And so we're talking like a time when, we're just taught in public school around here, like there was just, they say there's Indians, there was Native Americans here, and then white people moved across and went west, and then they all went on reservations, and now the Native Americans are gone. But and we don't really think 10,000 years ago. So in these areas, like around Skinwalker Ranch and where these sites are, there has been thousands of years of sacred rituals. And when you look into what these rituals and ceremonies were, they're all this alignments of stones and alignments of sacred canyons and geology.
Are you surprised that ET contact is being pushed down the realm of ufology so far these days over the last few years? Does that really, really find concern with you?
It's disappointing, but it depends. It's about perspective, though, Dave. It depends on who you're listening to and what you're looking at. The circles I run in, it's everywhere. And people are so open about it, and they're not all about even just like nuts and bolts stuff anymore. It is about consciousness. People are starting to wake up. Now, you start talking about the government and big organizations like that, trying to squelch it or distort it or whatever. That's a whole other story. But having a good authority, they don't win. So I try not to get discouraged, but there are times I just want to roll my eyes and go, man, this is taking a long time. And I wish people would just, wake up and start thinking for themselves. But it's happening.
And I understand that, but as someone who deals with a lot of experiencers who are embarrassed to come out, scared to come out,
Mhm.
have had the ultimate experience that the majority of this planet has not, is how do you teach them to say, you may want to keep this quiet. It's good to talk about it, but you may want to keep it quiet in your inner circles of outside of the internet or whatever it may be, because for a lot of people, they don't know how to talk about it. They don't know
Right.
what to say, how to express themselves with it.
Mhm. Well, luckily, it is becoming more of a mainstream topic, even if it's being, made fun of or derided. It's still part of common mainstream conversation now. So it's easier than it was, say, for me back in the 70s and 80s when I was a young adult. Um, you know, doing some of this work even, but having to do it on the sly because if I'd have been found out at that point, doing it as visibly as I do now, I wouldn't have had the job I had.
Right before the break, we told the story of the Philip experiment back in the early 1970s. What's amazing to me is publicly, I don't think there's been many other people actually try to do something like that and create their own tulpas. But we have seen it before. Creepy pasta stories like Slender Man, Siren Head, many others, Bloody Mary.
Who's Siren Head?
Oh, he's like a tall human being who has a siren as a head, and he walks around stealing children.
Oh, of course. One must do something dramatic if you have a siren on your head. Yeah. Well, it's a real interesting thought, especially, when you were reading sort of the textbook definition of it coming from Tibetan ideology, right? Like the idea that you can manifest something as a collective. That is not a foreign concept, though, right? That is a concept that is universal around the world. The idea that, that's the base principle of magic. The idea of being able to manifest things. And we've seen the experiments with water where the power of positive thought. The guy that in the early 2000s published that book, I cannot remember his name. I want to say it was Hiramoto, but he put out this book where basically they put water and they put it in the middle of a room, and they had everybody think really negative thoughts, and then they analyzed the water molecules, and then they had everybody think really positive thoughts, and they actually analyzed the molecules, and they looked differently, showing that collective thought could actually transform matter. So it's not a huge leap to think of a collective of people manifesting something. Now, the description, though, that you're reading of this Philip experiment sounds more like they, something came through than them manifesting it. It's a fine line, right? Like, is it that we're manifesting something at a seance, or is something coming through? How do you even know that or define that? It's really just you decide, I'm going to decide that this is an entity trying to contact me, and I'm going to channel an entire novel from that contact, right? Which is like the crux of the spiritualist movement that happened again and again. Or are you going to decide that it's psychokinetic, and that everybody's thoughts are moving the planchette, and that we're manifesting this thing into being because we all believe it? And it's a very difficult thing to really define, but at the core of it, does it matter?
Dan, it has been a real up and down start to this year in the UFO world. It started late last year or summer last year, where the United States Navy basically said they weren't going to play in the UFO game anymore, and it's been distraction after distraction. Then Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick comes along and drops that report that many people are just tearing apart, from government officials right down to experiencers themselves. I mean, when you look at what's gone on in, say, the last 6-8 months, it's wild, man.
But It's wild, but it's part of a repeatable pattern that has been established since 1947. And that's one of the videos I made is I went through the report. The report does have value. It is a excellent timeline of the United States government's investigations into the UFO phenomenon. It lists everything, every name that they had as they were going through that they're telling us about. There might be some in there that there's no mention of Majestic 12, if that actually was a thing or not, but they do tell us what is, I guess, in the public knowledge base as far as what happened. And the pattern that emerged was someone would become curious about the UFO phenomenon. And I refer to it as being open-minded and having scientific curiosity about these phenomena that they were seeing in the sky. And in 47, it started with General Nathan Twining when he wrote the Twining memo and said that this phenomenon is something real and not visionary or fictitious. And I also want people to remember that he said that they appear to be elusive by nature. That's something that I feel like has been true and consistent throughout the course of our experience with whatever this phenomenon is. But the pattern starts out with someone being curious and open-minded about this topic. They start investigating it within the government, and then the Pentagon leadership steps in and says, we're going to put an end to this. We're going to start Project Grudge. We're going to shut this down, and we want everything to be explained and debunked. And it was successful in 49. They started Grudge back up. They tried to be neutral. They started investigating it, and it made them more curious about what's going on. And so they started taking it more serious. So then they started Project Blue Book to debunk and explain everything away. Well, they started to become more curious with J. Allen Hyde eventually flipping because of the Lonnie Zamora case, where he became convinced that he had been doing the wrong thing and needed to start actually taking an open-minded view of the phenomenon, became more scientifically curious. And then that's when the Condon Committee was formed to put an end to their investigation and put the nails in the coffin.
In the coming months, I think they're going to make more announcements.
I'm very curious to see what kind of patterns they're going to find.
What kind of patterns? You mean psychology, psychological, or behavioral, or what?
The psychological behavioral patterns, because if I look at myself, okay, I go outside and I'm like a little kid staring at the stars, hoping to see Santa Claus fly across the sky on Christmas Eve. That's the way I take it, but there are days when I know I've had an experience and I know the fear. And it's something that fear, that feeling that you get when you're being taken, it sticks with you. And it's not a pleasant feeling. At least for me, it isn't. I don't know what happens on the craft, whether it's a good time, bad time, or whatever. I just know the feeling of what it's like to be taken. And it's uncomfortable. And I'm sure there are, when I feel that gravitational pull, usually it happens when I'm dreaming and I feel that gravitational pull that I'm being sucked away. I know I'm going for a ride, and it makes my heart race. It makes me panic.
Can I mention something else? It's related. It's related. One of the things that I was picking up on when I was listening to that podcast, the TTSA podcast, today, was that they were talking about ancient practices too, right? And ancient traditions. And so one of the things that, I was thinking about is about the Eastern, studies and the Vedic stuff and yoga and, enlightenment and all these things. And some of the things that they were talking about in the podcast are explainable to some degree in yoga and in esoteric practices. And especially Kundalini. When Kundalini rises, if you're not balanced, it can feel like a vortex of energy coming out of your body. And sometimes that experience happens with you at UFO experiences as well. And so there is a cultural thing here that's also embedded in a lot of this that I feel like is maybe getting misinterpreted or getting missed. But even with that experiences of a vortex coming out, which feels like your spirit coming out of your body, you get freaked out too, because you're rising up out of your body. And so it's a very similar feeling to like what you're describing when you get taken.
All right, all right. That was the SOR Weekend Review. As we do every Saturday, we hop in the Spaced Out Radio Time Machine, go back and see what it was that you may have missed this week on Spaced Out Radio. As you can see, a lot of excellent, great guests that we had here this week, just like every week. So if this is your first time, would definitely appreciate if you hit that notification bell so you know next time we go live. It's every single day. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the show here. And I actually had this comment up real quick. Just wanted to point this out. Stargazer says, at this point, if we want disclosure, it'll take an alien invasion for the government to finally say that we have visitors. And I'm totally with you on that. You know how I feel about the government and their lack of need for disclosure for them. So maybe that'll be something we get to talking about today with our guest as we go ahead and get ready to bring in Lee Strauss, who is an abduction experiencer, also a UFO and Sasquatch investigator. So let's go ahead and bring Lee in. Lee, how are you tonight?
I'm just fantastic. I'm really happy to be on your show, Rob.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming in. Always love a fresh perspective. Like I said, I feel like every conversation that we have here is a conversation that kind of moves us closer to getting to where we need to go. So I'd love to hear your perspective on a lot of this stuff. So just kind of starting out, as I do with every interview for the first time we talk, if you wouldn't mind kind of going back in your past to when you may have had your first experience and kind of what led you into the field that you're in now, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I was a young kid, my parents would tell me stories about things that they saw. My mother saw a UFO over Green Lake, and then my aunt and my mother saw a UFO while they were driving over the pass, Stevens Pass up here in Washington State, actually. It kind of was following behind their vehicle, and that was their two experiences. And then my grandfather showed me some slides when I was a young kid of UFOs in Washington, D.C. He worked for Boeing. He was an engineer, chief engineer anyway, but he was in D.C. at a time where he saw some things in the sky and took some pictures and showed them to me when I was, I don't know, about between 8 and 10 years old. He loved photography, and so that's what he did. And he said, I don't want you to tell anybody about what you're seeing here. You can't say anything to anyone. And I was like, okay, you know, I was a kid, whatever, and saw that stuff. And I was just like, wow, that's really amazing. And so I went and told the neighbor kid, of course, and that created all kinds of havoc. I got in big trouble and whatever, but you know, he wanted to see the photos too. So my grandfather took us both in and showed us the stuff. But I grew up Catholic. Okay. You know, went to church on Sundays, and this stuff, other than, you know, hearing about it here and there and the little stories, it really wasn't in my wheelhouse. You know, I thought it was kind of interesting, but it wasn't part of my life. I mean, church was more part of my life than that sort of stuff. So, you know, going to church and then actually thinking that I wanted to be, you know, a preacher later on in life, you know, and that sort of thing. And, but some things happened later on in my life that really changed me. And I've never been the same since. And I've had to rework my whole worldview around what I know now versus what I knew then. And it was a very difficult change. It was a very difficult thing to deal with, you know. I can't stress it enough because it almost brought me to the end. Just having to learn that everything that you were taught, you know, as a little child, that, you know, in Sunday school, in church, and all this stuff doesn't exist, but here it does exist. So, you know, it just made me who I am now, made me the researcher that I am now, but it was a very hard road to get there, I'll tell you. So what happened to me, Rob, was I lived in a house in Normandy Park, in Washington State here, and across the ravine or across the water, because you can see the bay out there. There's Maury Island, And I don't know if you've heard of the Maury Island incident, but that sucker happened right out there across the water from where I was living. But that was way back when, I think it was like 1940. I don't have the paperwork with me here, but 1940 something. And that was 3 days before Kenneth Arnold saw his UFOs going between Mount Rainier and Mount Adams. So that's, the time frame. So a lot of this stuff did happen in Washington State, the first couple sightings pretty early on before, we had the crash in Roswell. But what happened to me is I've got these double doors in the bedroom. French doors is what they are. Well, one morning we woke up and the French doors were way open, all the way open. And we always close those and lock those. We make sure that those are locked all the time. Yeah. We don't, just because of intruders and there's raccoons too that come into the yard and they like to get up on the window and whatever. So for some reason the doors were open and I figured, well, that's just kind of odd, close the doors or whatever. But a couple nights later, Rob, this is this is way out of the ballpark for me. But I woke up and I was not in my bed. I was laying face down on a table. I could tell I was looking at the floor. But the weird thing about this is that I could see my body laying on the table. And it was very upsetting to me, to say the least. And I was viewing this and had like a cone of light over my body that was laying on this table. And I was totally freaked out by it. I could tell that there was something or someone next to me on my right-hand side. I couldn't really see it because all my attention was focused on my body laying on a table out in front of me. And my heart was racing, of course, this cone of light over me. And I could see like this contraption coming down slowly over my body, right? And my body's trying to move and I'm freaking out. My heart is racing, like I'm saying. I am freaking out watching this happen. And they're like a bunch of tubes stuck together. Have you seen Superman, the first Superman, where they're in the ice castle and there's all these like tubes that come up out of the ice? Well, that's what it looked like, all clustered together. And they were coming down towards my body. And there was a lower tube that came down farther than the rest. And a needle popped out of that sucker coming down towards the back of my neck, right? And so I'm watching all this happen. I'm struggling to try to move. I'm freaking out. The worst fear I think I've ever had. And all of a sudden it pierces the back of my neck. And, at that time there was like drool coming out of my mouth. I could kind of still see out of my eyes, but I was still watching my body and I was drooling, and very upset, obviously freaked out about it. In fact, right now I'm it's got me going again, but it pierced my spinal cord. And then it was like this loving feeling came over my body, Rob, like I was being held by God, by the hands of God. I had never felt anything like that in my entire life. You can't feel that kind of love in your body. There's just no way that the human body could contain that amount of pure, absolute bliss and love, right? Yeah. And so I woke up in my bed, neck hurting, that love feeling kind of drifting off away from me. It was such a shock to me that I just woke up in bed. My neck hurts. I reach back behind there and I've got like a crusty residue with wet, right? And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I asked my wife at the time, I said, hey, look at this. What's going on here? And she says, well, it looks like you got some kind of a weird spider bite or something. Something's going on. It's all red and inflamed. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, you won't believe what just happened. I just had this crazy dream, but here yet this is going on. So at that time, those thoughts about the UFO and the stuff from my parents saying things to me about certain things that had happened, and my grandfather came rushing back to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I was abducted. I have no words. I don't know, and my whole paradigm starts to shift. Well, that's not real. It can't be real. That's not what happened to me. So I started looking online for other abductees, trying to find a group where I could go and talk about what had happened to me, hopefully finding out that what had happened to me didn't happen to me. That's what I wanted somebody to say, oh no, that's not what happens during an abduction, blah, 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 but it took me actually like 3 years, and it's very uncomfortable to think about during that time, trying to integrate what had happened to me and trying to figure out whether it was real or if it was some kind of crazy dream that I had or whatever. Finally found a group of people. And this was in North Seattle. It was this group that I found through Meetup. And I went to their thing and talked about what had happened to me in my dream. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, that's what happens, in abductions. I'm like, you're crazy. No, this did not happen to me. This is not real, And they're saying, yeah, this is typical stuff that happens. And I'm like, what the heck, And it really scared me to think that other people are telling me now that this stuff is possible. And then the paradigm shift, the whole thing. Now I've got to really figure out who I am and what life's about and how do I fit into all of this, So I started talking to certain people. I knew that there was a guy at work that kind of believed in this stuff. And so I was talking to him about it and whatnot, and which turned out not to be a good idea because I got back to HR, and that wasn't good because, then they came out and told me that I needed to not talk about this stuff. And so that was a difficult thing to deal with as well. But in the group, they got me in touch with Dr. Janet Colli. And she basically uses EMDR to take people back through their traumatic incidences, whether it be from war or whatever the case may be, to desensitize you from what happened. And so I started.
And if you could really quickly explain what EMDR is.
That's it's a rapid eye movement desensitization, to desensitize you from traumatic stress that you may have been through in your life.
Okay.
Like, a lot of soldiers from different wars will use EMDR to kind of get past the stress, the mental stress that they've been through, and and seeing things that they saw. Okay, so it's just basically going through and repeating what you saw, and it kind of being able to come to terms with it, in your own mind and work through it. So she started EMDR on me, and the first thing that I saw, and it took quite a while in the first session to get me into that space where I was in my room laying on my bed, and there's this amorphous blob that just kind of materialized over by my dresser and my like wardrobe that we had in there. And it was like moving and undulating like water, but like on a flat surface like this, horizontally.
Okay.
And all of a sudden there was a hand that came through that amorphous blob, and a foot, and then the face. And of course, once the face came through that and I saw that, well, we were doing the EMDR, I went straight up to the ceiling, right off the couch. Because seeing something like that, you don't have anything to grasp onto. These are stories. This aren't real. This stuff doesn't happen. Well, apparently that's not the case. It's real and it happens. And trying to integrate this stuff into your life after you've been such a religious person and trying to figure out how it fits in is extremely difficult, and I can't stress that enough. How, the hell that I went through trying to just deal with it. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So when I saw the beam come through, right, and it wasn't just one; it ended up being three, and they came over to my side of the bed, and I could not move. They took me outside, you know, through the double doors. I went out, and there was a craft in the yard, you know, and it had like a cone of light that came down, and then went right up into the craft. And in EMDR, I remember feeling extremely nauseous once I got on the craft, very nauseous. And it's funny, I remember the smell of what it was like at that point in time, of what it smelled like on that craft. Vinegar and ammonia is what it smelled like to me. And I got sick on that craft. I almost got sick on the couch inside in the office with Dr. Janet Colli at the time when, you know, we were reliving this stuff. So the message that I got when I got sick was, we do not have control of our faculties. That's kind of the understanding that I got from them. When they communicate, they don't communicate with words. It's like they use our five senses to communicate with us. So it's a very overarching type of communication that I was getting from them. Very easy to understand. I mean, it's not a speech, but it's definitely much more overarching. It's hard to put into words, but it's yeah, exactly. So they brought me back into this room where I had this happen, you know, and I remember going through a doorway that had an arch at the top, like it was rounded at the top. And I go into this room where it's dark again, but I see the table, and then I get on the table, and then I have to relive that in EMDR. I had to relive it. I think I went through it 3 times while I was there with Dr. Janet Colli, just to try to desensitize myself to what had happened to me. And still, even just talking about it right now, it's still a lot for me to talk about. I don't like to talk about this stuff because, you know, what I do, Rob, is I go out and I film craft. I film stuff flying around in the sky. I take pictures of craft. I don't know that they're going to be there necessarily, but I just, you know, click my phone or my camera or whatever the case may be. And a lot of the time things show up. And I wanted that to be what I'm about, what Lee Strauss is about, is capturing evidence, not the abduction stuff, because it's much harder to believe someone that's telling you a story about what happened to them versus the evidence that I can capture with my cameras. Yeah, it's much easier that way. And that's the only reason why I keep my story. I mean, I've wanted to talk to Dave about it because, you know, he's an abductee and he's been through this stuff. But it's very hard to talk about for me. But yeah. Anyway, we'll go back. We'll go back to the abduction.
Yeah, no. You're, and that's awesome because that approach. So the receipts. I'm all about this year, 2024, and my thing is bringing receipts this year. I brought receipts myself, and I'm just in a situation where I would like for others to bring their receipts. So it's excellent that you focus on the things that you can show versus the stories of the abduction. Now, let me ask you this. With that being said, and I always ask this because it's different answers for different people. When you had your abduction experience, as you mentioned, you told your wife about this afterwards. So I'm assuming then that she is there with you as you are going through the experience. Is she able to, are you able to ask her if you were physically removed during that time, or if she observed you there the entire, so was it more of an abduction of your consciousness, or were you physically taken? How do you feel about that?
For me, it was always physical.
Okay.
I had never been. Obviously, once I was on board, I was somehow pulled out of my body, as I was able to witness things. But for me, it was always a physical thing. My body left every time.
So what do you think about that? Because I'm finding that some people feel like they were just conscious, their conscious was taken. Some people feel they were physically taken. And then the question ends up being, okay, well, a third party observer, how would they observe you being abducted? Or is it potentially, and this is something I just thought of now, is it potentially a situation where maybe time is being manipulated to where you are physically being abducted, but maybe they slow time down or they stop time, excuse me, in order for it not to reflect on a third party that might be viewing you?
She was asleep in bed. She never witnessed anything. There was a couple times in that house where I was taken. But as far as I can tell, and as far as she ever said anything, that she never knew. She never knew. And we had a big Labrador, and he never alerted or did any of that sort of thing either. The one thing I will tell you is after doing the EMDR, or while I was doing the EMDR, not during that time, but at home, during the night, I could tell when they were coming. And not having control and knowing that you're going to lose control of your body. And I'm telling you, it's the worst thing. It's hard to deal with. Like I said, during that time, it took me about 12 sessions to get over my fear. But during that time, not knowing that you're not going to have control of yourself, it is the worst freaking thing to deal with. It is so hard, Rob. I can't even begin to tell you.
It's the thing that I'm afraid of currently, because you mentioned something earlier tonight where you stated that once you have that sighting, then your mind changes as far as how you view what's going on, and then now you know that these things are real, so you're open to the possibility of these other things happening. And that's what I live with. Truthfully, I'm in a situation where I had a crazy UFO sighting. I had a crazy little paranormal situation. These are all proven receipts that I have as well. And I wonder, I'm like, what is the next thing to happen? Is the next thing this abduction experience? And am I going to be just sitting here and then something materializes in front of me, like a lot of people say, like you said, the amorphous blob? And a lot of people say the same thing, where it seems like it may be, I guess, a portal, or if you could say, and something's coming through it. And this is what I live with in fear every day. So I can kind of understand what the way when you describe not knowing when that next time may be, and that you're really totally helpless to the whole being taken situation. How do you feel about, do you think that the governments know that this is happening to people and they just are complicit, and it's obviously because they can't do anything about it?
Yeah, they can't do anything about it, I don't think. I think that, people that are getting abducted probably have their name on some list somewhere,
Yeah.
So, I think that's a great possibility. Rob, what you're going to notice if it's your time to go, I'll give you a little hint here how to tell.
Uh-oh.
You're you're going to feel something. You're going to feel a strange vibration. It's not going to feel right. Something's wrong. You're going to feel anxious. Your palms will probably sweat. You're going to get a rapid heartbeat. You might feel a little queasy, little like butterflies in your stomach, very uneasiness. And what I mean by the vibration, it's not something you can hear. It's something that you can feel. It's just not right. Not right. So you'll,
God.
before it happens, you're
So
going to
let me ask you this as well, because I know you said a warm feeling and then like a godly love, warm feeling. So with that being said, that obviously, if you're in that moment, then maybe you feel like, oh, hey, this is okay. Everything's going to be okay. But then when you're not in the moment and you're just in normal life and you're anticipating the next time that happens, you're in fear of it happening. So do you look at it as something to be afraid of? Do you think there's a malevolence to it? Or is it, as you felt in the moment, warm and benevolent?
Now I'm okay with it. In fact, I welcome it now versus early on in my journey through it. It would be fine with me now, but back then, no, not having it. I would fight as much as I could. And I think I'd come to the realization that I could stop it now if I didn't want it.
And how would that be? How would you stop it?
I have got to this point in my life where once this started, I became not as religious as I was. I had to reform my whole belief system, right? But now I'm back. I'm very much back into praying a lot to God and much more back to being much more religious now than I was before. And I think what I can do is just say that, no, I don't want to go, period. End of story, and then in such a way that they won't take me. I had one incident where I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I am just not. And I was so focused on not going, just completely, like 100%. And I had no question about it in my mind. I was not going to go. And I didn't. I felt the whole vibration and the whole thing coming on. And I'm like, no, I just put my foot down and I was like, God, I'm not doing this. This is not happening. And I did it to such a degree that I felt like I was able to stop it.
And what type of beings are you seeing on the craft? Are you seeing the typical grays? Are you seeing something else, or?
No, it's the typical grays. Usually, it's the shorter grays. They always come in threes. Every time I've had an experience, it's always been three of them to come and get me. But there's a different one on board. He is a little bit taller. And he's got blue eyes, like big blue eyes. The ones that come and get me, they have black eyes, right? They're black. And what the thing about that is that I got this impression that they put something in their eyeballs to make them black before they come down or they walk onto our planet or whatever the case may be. And then they can peel it out later. Like it becomes solid of some sort. And then they can peel it out like a contact or something.
Yeah. Like a film or a
shield.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get ready. We're actually at the end of the hour here. I know that you have had the pleasure of having sightings and getting them filmed. Are you in a position today to show anything? I don't know if because you can share from your end if you'd like.
We'd have to click to YouTube and do it through YouTube.
Okay, yeah, we could do that for sure. So, because I know you have some awesome sightings, and I really want to see, because I know there was one that I saw you showed, and I think it reminds me of my sightings. So I want to see maybe if what you saw were the same things that I saw. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pause for the cause as we get ready to jump into hour 2 with our guest Lee Strauss, as we go ahead and we're going to look at some UFO videos and images and things like that. So you guys kick back, relax, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. See you then. All right. Everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we go ahead and get back into it with our guest tonight, Lee Strauss. We were talking about, alien abductions, just encounters in general. I wanted to. I brought up a question from a guest earlier, right before you joined, that said that the government, we likely won't get disclosure from them. The only way it happens from them is if we have what everyone calls catastrophic disclosure, which is I'm team catastrophic disclosure, by the way.
Mhm.
How do you view that? Do you view do you have the same sentiment, or how do you think disclosure comes to us?
Well, there's a lot of people like myself and like you, Rob, that have seen things in the sky, and their stories are getting out there, and you've got David Grush and some other people that are coming out and have come out about the reality of this stuff. What I think would have to happen is you'd have to have a lot of people. We're probably talking, upwards of 1,000 people that all see something in the sky. And that may have happened, down in Arizona with the Phoenix lights and that sort of stuff. But it's going to have to be a lot of people, and it's going to have to be in an area like Washington, D.C., or, it's going to have to be something that's unmistakable, where you've got hundreds of people with cell phones all filming this thing at the same time. Daylight sighting, of course, would be better than a nighttime sighting, because, at night you're looking at lights versus, something during the day where you can actually see structure of a craft and that sort of stuff. But I think that's what you're going to have is you're going to have to see something like that, and you're going to have hundreds of people filming it at the same time, where, it just can't be denied.
Yeah, and they always, skeptics ask for the White House on the lawn moment, where they just land on the White House lawn. Now, I feel like, and here's the issue I have with that, right? Because you would think, a mass sighting. I think it's going to, if we just sat here and did nothing and we just allowed something to happen, it would take something that is recognized globally as a sighting. But I think we've had examples of that in the past with like the Ariel School and the Westall, and then even Varginha, Brazil, where it's kind of like, I mean, what more can you ask for, sort of thing. And I just feel like they'll move the goal line depending on what it is that we'll have. They'll say, oh, well, that could have been government tech that you saw. That was maybe it's something experimental, even if it's a mass sighting that everyone saw. So it's like, I and the reason why I even do this is because I feel like we already have the data. Like, hopefully we'll get to see your data here. The audience here has seen my data. And if as long as we've cataloged that data and we have it for others to be able to reference and access, then you'll find, I think what'll happen is you'll find other people who will be able to reference what they saw to what you saw and say, hey, I saw the same thing. And that's kind of what I want to do tonight, because I saw some of your videos and I was like, dude, that looks like what it was that I saw. And I'm more so with my sighting trying to find, and I found other examples of the exact same thing. But it's like, my theory is the one I had was in broad daylight, 12 noon, high noon, 108 degrees Fahrenheit that day. These things, clear blue sky, no clouds, and these things flew right overhead. It was 47 of them, right? They were in a formation and they were doing all kind of weird stuff, similar to some of the stuff you've captured. So with that being said, I have a friend, I don't know if you may know him, Tom King.
No.
Tom King, he was one of the ones who filmed the Phoenix lights.
Okay.
And they keep using his videos, but he has a camera set up on top of his house where he has multiple cameras always aimed up. And I think you guys probably have the same sort of setup. So what have you found, being able to just have a camera that focuses on the sky? How often are you seeing these things up there? Daily, or what's the percentage?
So this is really good. Percentage is super high for me. I'm around 75% accurate as far as going out, setting up, pointing the cameras in the right direction, and having them show up. Okay. Um, what I used to do was go out, set up my cameras, and not hit record or do anything, and just wait. And then when I would get this weird feeling, then I would be hitting the record button and actually capturing things, right? Nowadays, what I do is I go out and I set up. And now I'll tell you, I set up usually Mount Adams, Mount Baker, these type of locations, but I've even set up at my own house and caught stuff in the sky. So I don't know that it matters where I'm setting up. I just like to have a known location, something that's aesthetic, as my friend Tom would say, aesthetically pleasing, because then people, it's recognized. Okay, that's Mount Baker. Everybody should know where that is. A lot of people have seen pictures from that location. So aesthetic locations where you would, probably see a picture of that somewhere else on somebody's wall. Okay, but now there's a UFO, or there's a craft actually moving through the sky above that mountain, that sort of thing. So that my camera setup is immense. I've kind of gotten crazy with it, I've got thermal, I've got full spectrum. I've got all sorts of different types of night vision that I use. I've got like 2 Sony cameras, Sony A7S3. I've got another Sony. I've got a lot of different gear that I use to capture stuff in the sky, but I've also got things, Rob, that I can use to capture like tri-field meters and different other devices, like a Geiger counter and those sorts of things too, that I have that I'll use on site. But yes, a complete complement of whatever kind of gear you can think of. I've probably got it.
Okay, and then a step further, then, with all those different, it's awesome that you are able to view through different spectrums. What do you find in percentages across the different spectrums that you have? Where are you capturing most of these, in just a regular camera or the night vision, or what are you seeing on that?
Well, pretty much depending on the camera. So early on when I was doing this, I was just using night vision, Luna Optics, mostly night vision cameras. But I branched out, and right now, I mean, one of the greatest photos I got was from my cell phone. I mean, just my cell phone. I was just taking pictures of the sky, 3 or 4 pictures in a row, and I catch a craft. I mean, this is what happens with me, right? And then I caught a craft with a Nikon that I have, a Nikon camera, and I've caught craft with most of the videos that I have. I've caught with night vision, but I've also caught one with thermal, believe it or not. And people say, well, they run cold, but this one wasn't cold. It was a triangle that was hot, so there you go. I'll catch it with different pieces of gear. And I think, Rob, to think about it, it may not be, they don't care what camera you're using, that maybe they just care that you're capturing something, because I think they want a slow disclosure of what they're doing as well. They don't want to shock society into, hey, we're here, So like Independence Day, they want the slow turnover of their reality to the human race. They don't want to shock people and scare people.
So have you used the psionics before?
I've got one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and maybe you can lean into this, because a lot of people that I've talked to that have psionics state a pretty high success rate in capturing something through the psionics camera. How do you see that? Is that true for you? And
okay, so with your psionics, what you've got there is a really good night vision camera. The problem is that you can't zoom in with that sucker without it pixelating, because it's got a digital zoom. Okay. So you're pixelating what you're zooming into, which isn't very good. And its field of view, yes, it's wide, and that's part of the problem with the psionics when you're viewing the sky. You can pick out stars, but it's hard to see something that's moving across the sky that's way out in our atmosphere. Or, what would look like a satellite you might not see through a psionics because it's such a far distance. But, if you caught something that was close in with a psionics, that would be great. That would be great. I don't like to take it out and do night watches with the psionics. I use my psionics in the woods, with IR light when I'm looking for Bigfoot or that sort of thing. Yeah. So that's
I hear that too. I had a friend, Long Island Bigfoot, who who's a Bigfoot researcher. He said the same thing. He uses psionics for the woods. But I have had people who have said that when they use it for the sky, and I haven't used one, so I can't speak for this, but they say that they're catching things like 60, 70, 80% of the time, or, just something anomalous where it's like, what is that? Something they couldn't see with the naked eye. But like, for instance, my sighting was with the regular camera, so I know it's a little bit of both. But what I'm trying to figure out and trying to help, there's a lot of people out there who want to have that sighting, who have never had it. They've gone their whole life and they're just like, where are they? And other people are like, I see them all the time. And so there's a disconnect there, and I'm just trying to help the people who've never had a sighting try to find the best opportunity to have a sighting. So if you had to give a recommendation for someone who's never had a sighting, what is the best chance for them, like the best setup they might be able to take out to have a sighting?
I would get a Luna Optics, to tell you the truth, just because it's got a native zoom on it already, which is really fantastic. The best setup that I've ever had basically is two people, right? One has a laser. You do not shine a laser at an object flying in the sky, first of all. You only use it for like circling an object. So you have a spotter with a laser, green laser, and you've got the guy on the camera. Okay. And they're pretty close together, right? Not separated far apart. And then you scan, you got your guy that's scanning for things, and looking at the sky, but he's got that laser. And when he is circling an object, next to, as long as he's next to you in your field of view, then you can grab your camera and get right up on that object and film it.
You're right. I've seen that before.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it, really. The thing is there is a lot of satellites out there, and a ton of them. And you'll see things in the sky, Rob, that flash, rhythmically, right? So you got to realize that there is satellites out there and debris that is tumbling in space, right? And it's going to flash. It'll give a rhythmic flash. There are satellites that travel just a little distance apart from each other, and they go across the sky. So that's fine if you find satellites and you want to film them, because as soon as one does a right angle turn, that's not a satellite. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's, yes, film everything that you can find moving in the sky, because you never know. Okay. You never know if it's going to do a 90-degree turn, speed up, do a huge burst of light for you, change color. I've seen all of that stuff. So yeah. And then ask whatever it is to change course, or to do a 90-degree turn for you, or whatever the case may be, because they listen. I've had some interactions with objects in the sky, and them doing things I've asked them to do.
Now I have, and I'm trying to write this down. So you said it was Luna Optics?
Luna Optics. Yep.
Okay. All right. Luna Optics. So I'll put that in the database here. It's all about trying to, if we're going to bring disclosure, we got to teach other people how to validate the phenomena for themselves. And I've been under the impression, well, I've heard from it. So is Luna Optics night vision as well?
Yes, that's what they are. They have really pretty good night vision for the price. Yes.
So it sounds like night vision is a really great way to up your chances of having a sighting. And that's kind of what I've been telling people, people who haven't had a sighting, like, hey, if it's in your budget and you really want to have that sighting, maybe invest in one of these cameras, because it will, get you to the point to where you're having one. And then, like you said earlier today, it changes you the moment you have that sighting. Because
Yeah.
I know I sat here with my girl, and prior to this, I was already co-hosting this other UFO show. And up to that point, I had no sighting in my entire life. I just felt like this was a real thing. We had Lou Elizondo come out in 2017, and all these videos coming out and things saying these things are here every day. And so, it made me feel a certain way at that time, but it even amplified it the moment I had my sighting, because I sat there in awe afterwards, and my girl saw it too, and my stepson, he was right there as well. And it was just undeniable what it was. I could see it with my naked eye. There were these little round balls, white balls, and they had these little black pipe objects sticking out the bottom of them. It was like 47. They were swarming, and they were in the V formation. And then at about the 1 o'clock position in the sky, they just all disappeared. And we were sitting there just in shock and awe. And I said to her, I was like, do you realize what we just saw right now? Like, do you realize what that was? And it was just so mind blowing. And that's really, from that moment forward, kind of opened me up to the other things. Like, well, okay, if that's real, then this might be real, and and I'm kind of going down that rabbit hole as I interview and talk to different guests like yourself.
Right.
So, with that being said, because I definitely want to show the guests, the viewers, some of your videos, but just to hop in real quick, because I know you research Bigfoot as well. Do you feel like, and I always ask this question as well, do you feel like Sasquatch is a physical being living here in our reality daily, or do you feel like it's something that steps from another realm into ours back and forth?
Okay. Just to tell you a little bit of a background here. I started this whole paranormal thing with UFOs, right? So I'm trying to bring what I know about capturing UFOs into the Bigfoot world. Okay. So I've only done this Bigfooting thing for a little while. I've had some experiences out in the wilderness with rocks being thrown at me, and hearing strange noises and tree knocks and howls and different stuff like this. But bringing that tech into the Bigfoot world, I believe, from what I've been able to capture in the short amount of time that I've been out looking for Bigfoot, is that they know where trail cameras are, and they know how to turn them off and then turn them back on. And I don't think that they do it physically. I think that they somehow are able to do it in another way. And I don't know what way that is. I don't know if they're using infrasound to turn off electrical equipment or to phase out. Possibly if they're able to phase in and out of our reality in some way using infrasound. But I've had some very odd experiences, and I can only say that maybe they're using infrasound to affect the things around us in some way, because there's no other explanation. It doesn't seem to me like they would have any sort of electronic devices or tech of any sort to be able to do what they do. So my only thought is that they're using what they already have, and that's this ability to make sound in frequencies that we can't hear, and they're using it in ways to change the reality in some way.
But do you feel like they are, like, somewhere in the world, there's a Bigfoot encampment deep in the woods where they're bundled up currently? Do you think that that's more the case, that they are living somewhere physically in the woods, deep in the woods? Or do you think that they're living in a whole nother realm and they just kind of step over occasionally into ours? Do you think they're full time here, or do you think they visit, I guess?
I think they're fully time. I think they're full time here. I think that they spend the majority of their time here. I only think that they would use infrasound and phase or whatever they're doing in moments when they absolutely need to.
Like detection and things like that to be
Yeah.
detected. Yeah, I'm trying to figure that one out. And because it's
You're
just
not the only one.
when you look at it, 90%, and I've said this before, because we don't understand the planet that we're on, 70% water, 30% land. And then on land, we've explored about 90% of it, so 10% unexplored. And then it's just, okay, in that 10% that's unexplored, that must be where these things are living, in some of the most remote places. But I don't know, it kind of, I hear things that lead me one way and I hear things that lead me another way. But that's why I always ask, because I would love to get the opinion of a Bigfoot researcher and what it is that you've experienced. Because I have not experienced yet. And like you said, it's new to you. And in a natural situation, you would start, like you said, at UFOs or wherever you start your first experience, and you kind of migrate yourself into these other areas. So I'm kind of hesitant to go into Bigfoot because, for one, I don't know if I want to see one personally, physically. And then second of all, it's just like, what are you really at risk if you do come across one? Because I hear different stories on that. So, I'm just kind of scared to step that way. But it's good to at least hear of someone that's been out there and kind of has had experiences with this. But with that being said, what I would like to do, I know you said you had YouTube, these videos on YouTube. Do you have a link to that? You can send it through the private chat, and then I can bring it up, or you can bring it up on your end, and we can share it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can grab it for you real quick.
Okay. And while you're doing that, thank you, Foxy Joe, for the amazing super chat saying hello, Mr. Rob and Lee. We do appreciate your support of Spaced Out Radio, Foxy Joe. So thank you very much.
That is my YouTube channel, or one of them anyway. That's got the short clips.
Oh, did you? Okay, you got it here. All right, let me bring that up here.
You might have to just type it in.
All right. Not of this earth.
And then just go to the videos section and.
Okay, got it. So, so is there one you want to start with in particular, or just want to?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of really good ones, but UFO flies above Mount Adams is pretty striking.
Let's see. Okay, got it. All right, let me set this up.
And these are short clips where I just put out my gear and let them record the sky and then go through it later.
All right, let me add this to the stream and.
Yeah, and this was recorded down at East Eddy Ranch.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right above Mount Adams.
Wow. So is that time lapse, or how is that, or did it actually streak like that in real time?
It's been said that Bigfoot exhibits nocturnal behavior.
Yeah, it streaked like that in real time. It's not time lapse. So the Luna optics, which caught that object, is at like 23 frames a second. So that's the way, it was probably just a round circle or a round ball of light, And then there's one that does a 90-degree turn. That's pretty crazy.
Okay, and which one would that be?
That's towards the second row down, I believe. UFO makes 90-degree turn over Mount Adams. Second row down.
Oh, okay. Let me scroll up here. Yep. Okay. And let me have to do this because it's showing commercials and such. So let me see. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this one. What? Wow.
Yeah. So what my thought on this one is that I was moving the camera at the time. I didn't see the object, but for some reason, I think it knew that the camera was there and it was going to get captured. So it tried to get out of the screen as fast as possible.
Wow. That was definitely. Okay. Let me see.
So the next really good one that we have, let's see, this one here, July, the very first one. UFO
Okay,
July
yes.
2018.
Let me bring that one up here.
You can see they're shining lasers at it right now. Or near it, I should say, not at it.
Wow.
And it's hauling butt through.
Yes.
It's hauling butt through the sky pretty much. And I'm having a hard time keeping up with it. And that's why, even though my camera's on a tripod, I'm having a hard time keeping up with it. And that's why it's kind of wiggly a little bit.
Wow.
But this thing flashes and flares up several times.
Oh, shoot. Hold on.
Where'd it go?
Yeah, it dropped it off here. 1 second here.
Yeah, this one gets really crazy. I'm just fighting to try to keep it in the center of the screen.
Jeez.
Just wait, though. This gets nuts.
And this has changed direction from the beginning of the video. It's
No.
not a straight line.
No, this is a straight line.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. But here's where it gets crazy. Just wait. It's about to do it.
It's about to do the thing. Whoa.
There's one. It's going to do it bigger.
Wow.
There's that one, and it should be, the last one's really big. Bam. Once that happened, I'll tell you, I was like in an immediate migraine that I had when it did its big flash.
Wow. And I've seen in other cases where they've done this video with night vision and the lasers that this is a reaction to what you're signaling to them. Like, are you flickering lights at them, or are they just doing this randomly?
They're doing that randomly. That is not, that's not typical.
Wow.
There is other people with lasers in the field. That's at East Eddy Ranch, James Gilliam's ranch, if you guys know who he is. here in Washington State. So there's other people in the field that night when I was filming.
Wow.
With lasers.
Now, and I saw I saw you showing some videos before on a previous show that you had done, and maybe it was one of these, but it looked like you had something like a swarm of lights, like a bunch of them, and maybe it was just one of these videos. I don't know.
Yeah, so the first video, we do episodes. Andrew and Lee on the trail, we do episodes. So we have, I don't know, like season 1 and season 2 out. But in the first season, we actually captured, let's see, that was Elon Musk's Starlink, the first night. That after Starlink was launched, and I didn't know what it was, but I did realize it because it came around every 90 minutes. It would circle back, come around the Earth, and there it would be again. So we knew at that point in time that what it was.
Okay, all right, and this one is at the end.
Yep.
So let's see.
Our internet bill went up. Looks like you need a.
The other really good one, the crazy one that I have is ET UFO communication. It's in the second row down.
Got it. This is psionics.
Yeah, so I captured this on 2 cameras, the psionics and the Luna optics. Now, you can see this little guy coming up from a mountain.
Yes.
There should be audio.
Over the mountain, over the mountain. Coming up. Oh, it's getting brighter. Oh, shit.
These are real reactions.
It's going to the right. That's dimming down.
So the audio from this is
slower than a satellite. This one is too.
And the video is
I don't get that.
The Luna optics. Luna optics now has audio on their newer stuff that didn't back then.
They're doing something. I'll guarantee you that.
So what happens with this thing is I ask it 3 times to flash for me, and every time it flashes, the 3rd time I say, "You're about to go out of my screen. I need you."
Flash. Can you flash for me, please?
And it gives us a really big one at the end.
Yes. I asked it to flash and it flashed. Dead serious. Oh, and then my monitor went out. Oh my god.
Yeah, so I had one of my monitors went out at that time.
You still got it on this one though. Look, keep up. Yeah, but I don't have it recording. Oh shit. Wait, is it coming back? Wow, is that? It did.
So I'm also talking
and then my monitor went out.
With a guy named Tom Sanger on the phone, who actually
and now
got me
my
into
monitor's back on again, and I'm tracking it. I'm tracking it right now.
I mean, he gave me my first
Can you
night
flash again for me, please?
The rest is history.
Please flash again for me, please. And it's doing it! It's flashed again! No!
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny.
Wow! Oh my god, I just caught a shooting star that went right behind it.
Dude.
That is nutty.
So obviously I get really excited.
This is incredible.
When this stuff is happening for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what direction is it traveling? East or west?
We're traveling before you go out of screen,
north.
please. Can you please
North,
give us
okay.
one more flash?
North,
Please?
northeast.
It did! It's getting...
Watch this.
It did it! Oh!
Wow.
Yes! Thank you so much! Oh my god!
Which I would have loved to do.
So
that,
and then the
Over
other
the mountain.
videos, what I recorded with the psionics, basically the same thing.
Coming up.
So I caught it on both cameras.
Oh, it's
okay.
getting brighter.
Okay.
That's the difference, is you can barely see it with the psionics versus the Luna optics.
So
It's
you
going
see
to
the
the right.
difference. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's dimming down.
Okay. That is awesome, man. See now, yeah. Hold on.
It's slower than a satellite. This one is too.
But there you go. And yeah.
Yeah, so that is awesome, and that's what I'm talking about. See, receipts. We have those are awesome though, because you have the flashing response in those, and I've seen those in other CE5 videos, and usually it's when they will take the laser and they will click it or flicker it, make it flicker, so that the object responds. And I've seen them kind of flare up like that. Obviously, that's something that is not a satellite. It's obviously something that I don't see how that could be described by a plane. I don't see how you could figure any of those things into that. That is definitely something that is anomalous, and it's awesome that you have the data. And that's what I try to tell people. I mean, from most of the people that I talk to that are using this night vision, psionics, you could obviously see what the difference was there. It wasn't able to zoom all the way in, so maybe this Luna optics is the way to go. But the point is,
so.
you definitely okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the thing is that you're definitely catching things, and that's the other thing. So I talked to, I have a friend who's a skeptic, and we had done a show together, and he's just unconvinced that these things are up there. And I asked him, I said, have you looked at the skylight? When was the last time you just looked up at the sky? When was the last time you filmed for any period of time? Do you sky watch? No, I don't do. Okay, so how do you expect to see anything then if you're not looking up at the sky and you're not taking the time to record what's up there? Because when you do, chances are you're going to see something because they're up there all the time. Mm-hmm. What do you feel like the purpose is? Because like in my sighting, and maybe I can show it. I think I should. They've all seen it, but for these things to show up in broad daylight in a formation, 47 of these things, it seemed like they didn't care that they were being seen in the moment. And I'm just like, okay, well, and I've shown other examples of where they've appeared in the hundreds out in Mexico and things like, so it's like, why are they doing this? If you had to guess, just based on what you've experienced and your research, like, what is your theory on what they're doing potentially, and then why they're doing it, if you had to guess?
Well, Rob, I do think that it's that slow disclosure for them as well. They don't want to frighten the populace, so they're going to do things like this. And it's up to us to get out there with our gear and video and photo and do what we got to do to gather as much evidence as we can. I mean, eventually it'll be a tidal wave. We just have to all get out there and do the work. I'm a humble guy. I work construction. That's me. I'm just an average Joe. That's the way I like to think about myself. Yeah. I didn't go to college. I didn't do a lot of those things. I've just been a humble, blue collar guy.
Well, I want to see what your thoughts are on this real quick here. Tell me if you've seen anything like this, and then what you perceive this to be. Let me see here. Bring this back up. Okay, and this runs for a couple minutes here, but let's go. get the resolution out. That might have been a thing too. Resolution.
Yeah, that helps.
Let's see. All right. All right, this is just me showing in comparison to known video out there.
Right.
Because I believe the the images that I took are the same things they mentioned in the gimbal video. That's just my theory, but
Okay.
you'll see why. This is my sighting. No, them ain't birds. No, they're not. Dude, those are not birds. There's no way those are birds. Where'd they go? Can't see.
They're birds. I don't care what they say. They're birds.
Okay. All right, Kiara. Where? Where? Exactly. If they're birds, where they go, Kiara?
I don't know what that was.
Kiara, if those are birds, where did they just go? Nah, ain't no maybe. You would still see them, dude.
The thing that was crazy was when I had first seen them, they were shining. It was like, that's what caught my eye. It was like, it was shining. And then.
So they had sunlight reflecting off of them.
Yes. They were metallic for sure.
Okay.
And they were like spheres, physical spheres with these black things sticking out the bottom. And it was so strange.
Wow.
And I have some examples of others that match this. This is like 2 years prior to my sighting here, someone else in California.
They are kind of weird.
I don't even look right, huh? Damn, they look hella weird. I don't see no wings flapping, man. Do you see wings flapping?
Huh. And where did you take your video?
Mine's Southern California, Bakersfield, California.
SoCal, yeah, okay.
This is one day after my sighting in Aurora, Colorado, the same objects. I put it out on Twitter. Mick West replied to this, and you know what he said.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what he said.
And then so I'm like, okay, we'll explain this, and I show everyone who describes these thought they were birds, and then as they look closer, figured out they didn't have wings, and that they weren't birds.
Wow.
And this is the description I submitted to MUFON.
Yep.
Then it's going to show my sighting one more time. They look further away than they were with that camera.
Yeah, you've got it zoomed in quite a bit, I can tell. And your camera's trying to focus in too. Wow, man. I've never seen, I've seen clusters before, on videos, but I've never seen clusters in person.
And my theory is that these things, if it were nighttime, these things would be glowing, like orbs that you would normally see. They take on the same formation as an orb does, and whatever these are, they're not from here. And my question is like, why are they here and what are they doing?
Well, I think the orbs are drones of some sort. And I think they're, in some way, have a sentient...
Right. They almost seem alive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my girl brought it to my attention because they were actually swarming in a cluster, in a ball, and like in and out of each other. It was weird. And as they did it, you could see the sunlight shining off of them and let you know they were metallic. I went to get my camera, came out, they were in the formation. You saw that these were going directly overhead, so I could see them clear as day with my naked eye. And these things were round spheres, roundish, and they had these black pipes sticking out the bottom. I'm like, what is that? I've never seen anything like that. And then it's like, well, this is the data that I have to bring to the table. So, and I did a different video because MUFON has looked into this case plus other cases like this, and they have come to the conclusion that they're unknowns. So with that being said, in Mexico, imagine what you saw right there, but probably few hundred of them in the sky. I don't know if you've ever seen that video.
Mexico City ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same objects. I did a comparison in a different video I did, but they are the exact same objects that were in the Mexico video. So it's like, okay, I know the government, for one, has to know what these things are. They've seen these things before. And then the question is, if they're able to just fly above us like that, what is the threat to what are they doing? Is there a threat? And then what is the threat? And then should we be worried about those things? And that's kind of what makes me upset when we talk about the government getting into this, because they won't tell us. And it's like, are we at risk? Because you have this going on, you have the abductions going on that they probably also know about. You have the Sasquatch out there in the woods that people go out in the woods every day. And is that a threat? And it's like, do they know about all of these threats? I'm sure they do. And it's like, why leave the people at risk to whatever these things are and what their capabilities are? It bugs me. It definitely bugs me.
Well, maybe what you saw there, what you filmed there, wasn't a risk necessarily. Maybe they just got released from, a bigger craft and were on their way to different points, where they've got to do their work. So maybe just like Starlink, they're separating themselves from the group one by one as they go to do whatever research they've got to do.
Yeah, I agree. And my thing is like, I've thought about it, and I'm like, I don't believe those things were manned. I think those things were released from something bigger, and their job is to go out and do whatever it is they do, whether it's mapping or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But the question is like, okay, now you go to the government, you say, hey, I have this evidence that these things are out here and they're in our sky, they're flying right overhead. What do you guys know about these? They're there and they're doing a task. What have you figured out about these? Like, is this a threat, what they're doing, or is this mundane? Do you know what they're doing? You know, the whole fact is they're there, and they can do, if they want to, they can do something to us if they want to. So it's like, we need to have all the information that we can get on these things, but it's cool that you are able to catalog the things. I have other friends who have great video. I got my video, and it's just, that's why I say 2024 is about the receipts, because we need to see what's more common than not. And then, you know, that way we can build a picture of what things are actually here. And then once we figure that out, then we can maybe go down the path of what are they doing, and kind of further ourselves towards the getting the answers that we're looking for. So I don't know. How do you, if you had, if they came to you and asked you for your advice on how to kind of further the conversation, like what type of things would you recommend?
Well, I'm going to tell you now. Ask abductees, you know, like myself or others, you know, what is their business? What are they doing here? What are they after? You know, I have my ideas and things that I gathered from my abduction experiences as to what they're doing. And, you know, part of that is just to understand our planet and what we're doing to our planet and what we're doing to ourselves. You know, how things like shampoo and deodorant and dryer sheets and anything that you put on your skin, and how that affects your body, you know, or how we're affecting the planet, you know, in the same ways. Learn about our culture, you know, learn about our art, our music. They may not have music or art or other things where they come from.
Do you feel like they are the overall end goal thing for them? Do you think is, because there's obviously different species from talking to different people out there. So the Greys seem to be the ones that do the abductions, and there are other ones out there. So the Greys, I always hear from people that these seem to be the ones that have our best interests at heart. These are the ones that want to see us protect the world. But then there are these other species out there. Some people say their abduction experiences aren't so great. So it's like the end goal for, like, man, it's hard to say, because who's in charge? Like, if you look at the different species, who are the ones that are really controlling the narrative? Are the Greys higher than these other ones out here, or what's the hierarchy, and who really controls at the end of the day what happens to us? Or, you know, or can the Greys stop these other species from implementing some sort of malevolent plan? And it's kind of just, you know, we won't know until we're able to sit at the table with these guys. But it's just, you know, one of the reasons why we have these conversations is to try to figure this out. So it's been great getting your opinion on this and having you come through tonight. We're at the end of the second hour. Just wanted to know if you could tell everybody where they could find you and what you have going on right now.
Yeah, so on Facebook, Andrew and Lee on the Trail on Facebook, and also on YouTube. Got more videos and stuff on Andrew and Lee on the Trail on Facebook as well, or on YouTube, sorry. And then, like you saw, Not of This Earth is my other channel where I have a lot of videos up as well. But I'll be seeing you in Reno.
Ah, you'll be there. Okay,
you're darn right, I'll be there.
Well, with that being said, there is the Saturday. So Friday we do the show. Friday night is a VIP party. Saturday is the Ghost Hunt with Merle, and then Saturday night is the UFO Skywatch with Melinda Leslie. So if we could have you with your tools of the trade to maybe help facilitate some sort of mass thing that we could all take apart in, that would be excellent. I know there's going to be a few other CE5 specialists there. So what I'm hoping we can do is we could use that energy and kind of channel. Some people say don't use the word summon, but that's what most people use, to kind of get these craft to come in on camera in front of everyone, so we can maybe stream it live or just get it out there to the masses to show look, these things are there. So hopefully that's what we can do when we meet in Reno.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so everybody else, you hear that. Lee Strauss is going to be there in Reno along with everybody else that we mentioned. So make sure you're there if you can get there. If not, at least host a watch party at home. You know what I mean? And we'll go ahead and bring you up on screen and kind of get you guys to say, hey, and kind of, celebrate with us from wherever you're at in the world. But with that being said, Lee, I definitely appreciate you coming on and talking to me tonight. We definitely have to do it again. Let's maybe even do it again before Reno. I'll reach out to you. I have your information, so we'll go ahead and talk again.
It was great, Rob.
All right, Lee. Well, thanks so much for coming. Appreciate you. You have a great rest of your night, and talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, Lee. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. That was Lee Strauss, right? Great show. Great guest. Great data. When we're talking about receipts, 2024 is a year of receipts. Please try to get receipts, right? Just have your camera handy. Just be ready to hit the record button. There's usually a quick button on your phone where you can program it to just when you click it, it brings your camera up immediately. So kind of set that on your phone. That way it's a one push thing. You can at least try to capture what it is that you saw. Maybe it's just birds. Maybe it's just a plane. Maybe it's just balloons. Whatever it is, record it. And we can figure all that out later. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause. Get ready to jump into our next, or actually our final break of the night as we get ready to go into hour 3 of After Hours. You guys just kick back and we will be back in a moment. right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we go ahead and get ready to jump into just some cool stuff. Like I said, tomorrow is a holiday here in the United States, so tomorrow's show will be an archive replay. However, it will be set up to where the live chat will be open. So definitely, if you are looking to get into some content tomorrow, our replay tomorrow, or archive show tomorrow will have the live chat for you guys to take part in for sure, as we in America here get into this holiday. So with that being said, what I want to do is jump into some of our Lon Strickler's phantomandmonsters.com, right? Because Lon has some great stuff that is submitted to him all the time, and he puts it out on his website. And he actually reads some of these on his YouTube channel. I was unaware he actually had the YouTube channel. So make sure you guys go ahead and show Lon Strickler some love and support over there as he goes over some of these stories. But I picked out a few that were actually pretty crazy, pretty compelling, pretty weird and strange. We'll go ahead and get into some of those. Let me go ahead and get us all set up here. So that would be our cryptid stories. And let's see, what could we use for our background tonight? Yes, we're going to go ahead and set the mood a little bit here. We're going to go ahead and let me bring it up actually here. I have phantomandmonsters.com, Lon Strickler. Give it up, everybody. So let me go ahead and get into the story here. First one we're going to read tonight, we're going to go over, is the tall unknown being staring back at Michigan eyewitnesses. Okay, this is according to Lon Strickler. This was submitted to Lon. He says, a Michigan man is in the backyard of his girlfriend's house one evening. As he goes to collect firewood for the fire pit, he encounters a tall unknown being staring back at him from the dark woods. He says, the following account was forwarded to me. About 8 months ago, on a Saturday, I was at my girlfriend's house. She is fairly decent sized backyard, partially open and surrounded by dense woods. Keep in mind that Michigan, the state I live in, has some pretty large forests. There are 2 fire pits in her backyard, one not in the woods, and the other in a little clearing in the woods. She says, I went to get some more firewood from the clearing in the woods to bring up to the second fire pit. And as I was collecting, I looked up and saw 2 eyes staring down at me. I stand up straight, and this thing is literally eye to eye with me. I'm 6'7", and it's just standing completely still. For the few seconds I look, I can only see a thin form of a body. I haul ass back up to the fire pit, and my girlfriend can tell I'm clearly panicked. She asks me what's wrong, and I tell her concisely what just occurred. She seems iffy. She doesn't believe in paranormal occurrences, but is inclined to believe me. She convinces me to sit with her by the fire, and that is probably just a large animal. After about 25 minutes later, the fire is dying down, and suddenly an adult male scream pierces through the air, and it sounds like it came from the forest. We once again haul ass, leaving the fire smoldering. We stay inside for the rest of the night, and nothing else occurs. Her dad hypothesized it was most likely a deer. See, he was out of town at the time, and then the image is a crude drawing of what it was that I saw. And if we look at the image here, I don't know that you'll be able to see it too clearly. It's not actually on this story. It's not really a clear image anyways, but very creepy story. Definitely wanted to share that one here. We also have another story from Lon Strickler, which is the one you see on the screen here. These red glowing eyes were just staring at me. Was it Bigfoot? All right, the second story. Lon Strickler says an Alabama hunter was in the woods one evening feeling like he was being watched. He sees glowing eyes looking at him from a height of over 8 feet. Was it a Bigfoot? Question mark. I was born in Alabama. For the past 30 years have lived in several rural communities outside the Birmingham area. I spent most of my childhood roaming and exploring the woods and mountains. Although I've never flat out seen a Bigfoot, I have had things happen that I look back on now and it makes me wonder. I say now because of an incident that happened to me right at the end of this last winter. I bought a new .22 Browning pistol and was going out just about every night deep into the woods to shoot beer bottles that littered nearby trails. There were two main trails. One was an access road that ran alongside the interstate for putting up, taking down, or just maintaining the billboards, and the other was a really long trail that led to a clear foundation and a parking lot. Now that in of itself was really odd to me because of how remote it was, but given all the spent shells in the area, I assumed it used to be some sort of old lodge or old hunting club that was torn down. On the nights leading up to what happened, I had killed 2 hares and deer for sport. Shame on me, I know. I had seen countless more. The remains would always be gone the following night, which I attributed to coyotes or other wild animals. Even though I found it a bit strange for an entire deer carcass to disappear without a trace overnight. Well, one evening, I got the feeling I was being watched. I looked in the direction from which I thought I was being watched, and all I saw was what looked like 2 orange security lights side by side, way off in the distance. So I kept walking. After only a few steps, I could hear leaves crunching 30 or 40 yards off the trail in the woods and up the hillside pacing me in the same area where I felt the gaze. When I looked back in that direction, the 2 street lights I had seen were now clearly red glowing eyes just staring at me. I could now see a branch directly above the eyes, which gave me something to tell how close or far away it was, and it looked to be about 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall. I assumed it was just a deer, but couldn't figure out how the eyes were reflective with no light source, and I pointed my flashlight away or where I could see both eyes simultaneously when you typically see one or the other at a time, since deer eyes are on each side of their heads. I started up the trail after the animal, being sure to keep an eye on him. When I turned and took a few steps, it was gone. No galloping or leaves crunching or fading away. Just a few brisk steps and then nothing. When I walked up the hill to where whatever it was had been standing, I saw the branch that looked to be 3 to 4 feet off the ground from where I was standing was closer to 11 or 12 feet off the ground. After analyzing the surroundings and the event at length, I was left scratching my head because whatever I had seen was either an optical illusion, which I couldn't account for, a beast. I only caught a glimpse of standing no less than 8 feet tall with red glowing eyes. I was always the type to disregard any Bigfoot stories up to that point, but when it happens to you personally, it's a whole other story. There was no odor associated with it, which I know often accompanies these strange kind of things. Note, most Bigfoot encounters are not associated with the foul odor. Very few reports that I and others have received mention this. More sightings in warmer climates and swampy conditions will state that an odor was present. The presence of bright or glowing red eyes is a characteristic mentioned in many encounters, regardless of the time during the day or night. This distinguishable brightness by red eyes is difficult to explain unless a determination of supernatural origin is accepted. And that was a note from Lon. All right. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the third story from Lon Strickler here, which is titled, Here Comes Scary Peter Cottontail. Okay. This was submitted to Lon Strickler. Let's go ahead and take a look and listen at this. So, a New Jersey woman shared her weird experience involving the Easter Bunny. Okay. So, when I was little, it was Easter 2011. And ever since, I've been freaking scared of Easter. Well, not now, but for a couple of years. This happened when I was in the 4th grade, so like 10 or something, a long time ago. I still had a room with my sister, and I just didn't like Easter for a long time, and this is why. I was in my room, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I saw the outline of, you know what the Easter Bunny looks like if you go take your picture with it in the mall? And I saw that, just the outline. It just kept moving. I had my eyes closed as if I was dreaming, calling Mom, Dad, calling them out just like, wake up and get this friggin' thing away. Who knows what that was? I have no idea who that was. So scary. Like when I got older, I was like, Mom, is there actually an Easter Bunny? She's like, no, that's me. It's like Santa. It's not real. Now the scary part, it goes like this. Jade makes a creepy smiling face and waves, and I flipped out. I was like freaking sweating. I'm like trembling. I'm calling my mom and dad as if I'm having a bad dream. I was trying to act if I was sleeping, like I was having a nightmare, while the Easter Bunny was looking at me through my door. I'm finally able to go to sleep after freaking trembling, and it's like blew out. You know, in the morning, it's like blue, and I saw this thing lying on my bed, but it was in a different costume. It was like a thin little onesie kind of thing, and it was like tiny. I go into my parents' room and tell them what happened, and they go, oh, honey, you were just daydreaming and all that crap. So this was a story submitted to Lon Strickler. Not sure, never heard about an Easter Bunny sort of cryptid sort of thing, but this is that person's truth. So we'll go ahead and go with that. And looks like we have another. This is the last one we have here from Lon Strickler's PhantomandMonsters.com. Make sure you guys go and patronize his page or his YouTube channel. Make sure you guys do that. This one is titled Abducted by Alien Manifesting as Casper the Friendly Ghost Character. Okay, that's strange. So, okay, this is Lon talking. Lon says, this is a true 2-part story about alien contact. The being looked like a black-eyed Casper the Friendly Ghost character. I also believe that I was abducted. Okay, no, so this is the person who submitted the story. Part 1. I was approximately 6 years old, and it was the mid-late 1950s. I lived in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, Birmingham with my family. Hi, Lon. One night, I was awakened by the sound of muffled, panicked cries coming from the other side of my bedroom. It was my brother Mickey, who was a year younger than me, and I became immediately and fully terrified. I was facing the wall away from him, and I knew there was no way I would look in his direction because I knew something or someone was in the room. and from the disturbing intensity of mixed whimpering noises, I knew it was not Santa Claus. I did not move a muscle or make a sound, hoping that whatever it was would not know I was there. So I literally played dead, as I desperately did not want the boogeyman to know I even existed. My heart was pounding in my ears from fear, and my fears were not unfounded, as the next thing I hear is, "Look out, Jimmy." And I thought, oh no. Then I heard, "I'm here." Those words sent me crashing into a terror that in a few moments would increase 1,000-fold, for I am lying on my stomach, and suddenly there is a long-fingered claw/hand planted firmly on the middle of my back/spine. A witch's claw? An evil monster? I was going to die for sure. I am not kidding. This was the most frightening moment in my life. Suddenly, I realized there was tremendous heat coming through its hand, so much so I could feel the heat coming clear through my body, through my chest/solar plexus area, and onto the bed lying beneath me. And now, in my little boy's brain, being stabbed to death with the knife as I felt the knife slowly corkscrew deep into my body, though I never flinched or made a noise. That was my brave but useless way of hoping it might think I was already dead. Accompanying this penetration is a deafening noise in my head, a hissing type noise, which I took to be the monsters breathing over me. The sound was sort of ha, which only intensified my terror. During these moments, I was unable to appreciate the fact that it was actually not painful. What I felt was more of a thick bluntness turning its way into me. Not long afterwards, I felt the, quote, knife come back out of me. I was shocked that I was still alive, though I did not want the invader to know that. Then the heat stopped and his hand was removed from my back. I didn't make a sound nor budge an inch, nor open my eyes until the sun came up. But before I finish this story, which is the second part, let me make a few things clear. So 1, I never for a moment forgot this experience, and it was clearly drilled into my memory. 2, for several days to a week, I snuck a knife from the kitchen that I was not supposed to have and hid it under my pillow. It was the only defense I could think of, but my mother soon found it and took it away. And then 3, I do not have any conscious remembrance of the following day or morning, but I feel like we were probably told, "You just had a bad dream," by our parents. It would also be reasonable to believe my parents may have checked my back and saw nothing, or if they did, they never told me so. And then 4, I knew it happened and I was not sleeping and it was not a dream. 5, as life went on and growing up, I never discussed it at all with my brother Mickey, and as an adult, I totally assumed he would not remember that night. He was probably 5 or 6 at the time. I was wrong about that assumption, as you will see in the next part of this story. So part 2, fast forward from about 1957 to about 1994 or so. I'm in a living room here in Montana with my wife, my beloved, who passed away in 2006, entertaining ourselves by sharing ghost stories and strange experiences, etc. between my wife and I. We had lots of events to weave into conservation. I just had finished telling the above story when one of the group asked if Mickey ever had said anything about that night. I said, well, no, I'm sure he wouldn't remember anything. But suddenly, for the first time in my life, I thought, why don't I ask him? I have nothing to lose, but I hope he doesn't think I'm crazy. So right then and there, I picked up the phone and called him. He was living in Portland, Oregon. The following is the basic conversation that took place minutes later in front of my wife and friends. Hello, Mick. Hey, we're telling scary stories, and I'm going out on a limb here, but Mick, do you remember a night back on Dorchester? That's the name of the street we lived on as children. Well, folks, I swear that's as far as I got into my question when he interrupts me before I can say another word and says, yeah, I woke up to find what I thought was Casper, the friendly ghost, floating over to the side of my bed, and it was peering down into my face with its hands held up in front, and just above me it had a big head and big black eyes, and I was completely terrified and totally freaking out. It just kept looking down at me, and I was frantically crying or something when finally it moved away from me and went over to the crib that held Tim, my toddler-aged brother that slept in the room with us. And as it raised his hand over the crib opening, and its hand lit up, I about fainted when I heard those words and the following. Then it moved away from the crib, and I saw it go over to you. And I tried to warn you, and I said, look out, Jimmy, as it bent all the way down over you and looked like it was touching you. Well, I told Mickey my end of the story for the very first time, and of course, the pieces of that puzzle now fit perfectly in my mind. He, however, remembered a few other details. He says he remembers some days/weeks afterwards being taken to a doctor and having his brain x-rayed because he said he was afraid to go to bed without the lights being on. And he remembers night after night of shrieking with nightmares. I am sure my parents would have been very worried about him, and he believes that for a period of time he was under a great deal of stress since mom and dad said, quote, nothing happened. It was just a bad dream and everything is okay. All of which makes sense as to why I would have been sneaking a knife under my pillow. Mom and dad, of course, would naturally have been reassuring us that it was just bad dreams, but we knew that night was no dream, so that I am sure left us feeling very unprotected. In summation, I'm sure now that Casper, the big-head, black-eyed ghost, was a visiting gray alien. What I am unsure of is what did it do to me. I figured that it either, quote, fixed something in me, or took DNA and or left an implant, or all of the above. I suspect it left a tracking gizmo and took DNA, though of course I don't know any of that for sure. But I since have had several uniquely close experiences with UFOs that occurred later in my adult life that led me to believe we are connected somehow for some purpose that I hope to understand perhaps sometime in the future. This is indeed a fascinating universe we journey upon. I thank you for your time. With that being said, that is Lon Strickler's PhantomandMonsters.com, guys. Awesome stories from experiencers that have been submitted over the time. He has years worth of archives in there that you could jump into. Make sure you guys go over there and support, right? So we're going to go ahead and get out of that, and we're going to go ahead and jump into our next segment here, which is going to be a visit from one of our guys here, Mr. Brian Bowden, as we go ahead and introduce him as Brian Bowden talks. It's been a while. He might have some great stuff for us here, so let's see what happens. Brian Bowden, thanks for joining us.
I got to apologize to you. I have a crazy life and crazy everything going on. So trust me, I've tried to be on. If it's not traffic or if it's not some kind of medical emergency, which I have another one recently. Had a little shooting range accident.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was trying to do a drill and I got really, really badly pinched to the point where it opened up. But something I've been really concerned about. I've been talking about it with a lot of people. I've been doing a lot of deep meditation on a daily basis. I think it's actually good for everybody to try to do. I know it's difficult. I don't like guided meditations whatsoever. but I use binaural beats. We've talked about this before. I like the brainwave because it's usually inexpensive. They have a couple of free ones, and it's great. If you can take 5, 10, 15 minutes out of your day, it's going to change your life. I mean, you could have the worst day on the planet. Just sit there, focus, take in what the universe wants to give you, chill out for a little bit, and you'll be surprised what comes to you. So, but the problem I've had is, and I think we've talked about it a bit. I'm really concerned from the 25th of March, which we just had the lunar eclipse, all the way to April 15th. And what I've been seeing is really, really not good. And there's tons of talks about the upcoming solar eclipse, which, everybody's talking about gloom and doom. And there is a feeling that's coming around that something's going on. I don't know if you want to call it I want to use a term, but false flag, or they're setting people up. But there are things that are in place right now for this solar eclipse that I just don't understand why the military is being called out. Everything within the path is like tons of military being in place. They're closing schools down. They're telling you to get food for days or food and drinks. Or like, what do they know that we do not know? Now, if you really want to take a look at what's going on, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but and every time that we've had these type of solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, we've had a bunch of them. And since 1776, there have been 8 total solar eclipses from that point that have completely crossed the United States. 2 of them occurred during the Revolutionary War. 3 occurred during the Civil War. 2 of them occurred during the Vietnam War. And now we have this 2017, 2024, where it's making a bullseye, an X over the place. You can fill in the blanks where that was going on that. Okay. It's very interesting also that if you start really looking into it, the letters, there's a couple of transit. There's, one that looks like an anarchy. So there's 3 eclipses. 2 came down from the same point over in the Pacific Northwest and broke down. And then this one's going to come up from Texas and go across. So it looks like the letter A, or anarchy, but it also looks like the letter Aleph. Aleph from it's actually Aramaic, and that would be the original, text Sumerian, and then the other letter, if you take a look at it, the export, it looks like a Tav, which you want to get into Revelations, folks, we're going to do it. Revelations 22, 13 through 14. I am the Alpha and the Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter to the gates into the city.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we're all, look, we spaced out radio, right? So this is all spaced out stuff. I mean, it just so happens that when this solar eclipse happens, it will be April 8th. It's the first day of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar, and that happens to be the same day that God, if you follow the testaments, sent the plagues to Egypt. It's the exact same day it's taking place, which is interesting. We could have a lot of UFO craft coming in. I mean, this is those events that those, extraterrestrials like, oh, hold on. Hey, we got theater tickets. Something crazy is going to be happening down on Earth. So I mean, it doesn't matter what part of the country you're on, but if you're more throughout the totality and the path of this solar eclipse, you should be really not only looking at the sun, but seeing what's coming around and what's visible. Another aspect of it that people have been talking about, Planet X, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it. They're talking that a lot of this stuff, people are seeing 3 suns in the morning. They're capturing these images of the sun, its sunrise and sunset, and you can actually see 3 planets there.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's really, really crazy what the heck's going on. I don't know why my computer decided to say, I'm going to shut down for you, Brian. But the last time that we had this type of transit through the New Madrid Fault where it's going. It's covering, and if you want to get into it, there's like 7 towns of Nitten. I forgot the name of it. It goes over the Ark that they rebuilt, Noah's Ark. It is under the sign of Certus, which is the whale. It goes through a place called Jonah. It goes into a place called Repent and Rapture. I mean, how do you plan this? Right? So, because like when the U.S. was built, it wasn't what you see now. It was 13 colonies. They didn't have anything, left of the Appalachian Mountains. It was like no one went over there. And you have to be pretty wise to have all these towns line up the way they are. I don't know. It's just very interesting. But again, we go back to the same type of solar eclipse with lunar eclipses in 1881 that goes through the New Madrid Fault. Okay, they had earthquakes off the chart, 8.7, the most powerful earthquakes in the planet, and to the point where the Mississippi was flowing the wrong way for several hours. Yeah, no, it's insane what's going on, and bringing the earth, cueing the UFOs again, because they love this stuff. Whenever you see a constellation of UFOs, right? And I call it the constellation UFOs because they're the little white dots and they look like a constellation during daytime. That is usually, from every time I've ever seen it or it's ever happened, usually a precursor of some kind of disaster. National, It's insane what's going on. There's some crazy things.
I mean, when you're crossing that with the anarchy and then revelations and all those sorts of ominous signs, like what would you? I mean, obviously you don't know what's going to happen, but what do you feel like? There's going to be a man-made event or an extraterrestrial event?
I've seen some things, and so when I do a meditation, and I haven't remote viewed it because I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what I've been seeing. So when I do a meditation every day, I use my binaurals. I take a lunch hour, whatever it is. I get away from everybody, put in the headphones, put in my beats, and I do this multiple theta and beta waves that transition for 45 minutes. Before I go in there, I always say, show me what you need me to see. Tell me what you need me to know. Just blank. I'm going in like, here we go. And I've seen some events taking place. It looked like in the desert. I saw something that looked like a portal opening up, coming down. I drew this, came down into this desert area to the left of where this city is. And I got the idea, the impression, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, maybe Iran. And it looked like a light bridge. And we've seen movies where these light bridges are in play and things are coming down. It looked like there were craft or vehicles and entities, but I couldn't see the details of them. And it kind of also looked like, I'm going to say, a mushroom cloud. So I didn't know what was going on. And then if that morphed into me seeing, I was in a Jeep, like a military vehicle headed for something that looked like, the way I drew it, it looked like a vortex with a beam of light coming down. If you ever seen those usual UFO photos where you see like the big light and beam.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it looked like. It was being reported on the news globally. And I just had a bad vibe about it. And I said, early April. This was about a week ago, week plus, when I started seeing these events and getting this sense that something's not right. And I think there's going to be 2 different separate things taking place. Something's going to happen to the U.S. and something's going to happen to the Middle East. There's going to be a major event, and it's going to be known globally. And this is what I saw. Now, what's interesting is whenever I write in and do my RV journal or my meditation journal, because whenever something happens, I got to take note of it. The universe calling out like, yo, pay attention to this, pay attention. I usually get some kind of validation or a third party not connected validating what I've been seeing. And 2 days after I saw that, where I saw this Middle Eastern thing, saw some rockets, I saw a crystal city, which is really bizarre and what looked like a cloud or a mushroom thing, which I don't want to say the N word, but that's what
Yeah.
I follow a group called the Future Forecasters on their remote viewing group. They use the Hawaiian method to do it. There's Dick Gallagher's in it. He's the big guy in there. And there's a bunch of other remote viewers, and they do these little bits, little Instagram videos. Well, Dick Gallagher had something on, and he talked about disaster happening globally, things like the earth opening up and cracks and stuff coming in from the earth, out of space into the planet. It's going to be a global, event. And I'm like, holy, I'm seeing something similar to it.
Here's the scary thing. Now that you're saying this to me and pointing this stuff out, I swear today, it was earlier today, happened to be in my video feed on YouTube, was a video about bugging out in the event of an EMP attack. Like if you were just driving home from work and you had an EMP attack and this guy was going through steps on how you should map this out. Yeah, you park the car, make sure you have water, make sure you have all these things on you in the event that happens. And it was just a random thing because I'm just like, okay, EMP attack, we know those things can happen. But it was weird that it was in my feed. And then you talk about how now these signs are showing up. It just makes me think, like, are we setting up for something like that? And it kind of is, it makes me now think or feel like that for me was a warning, like potentially to, hey, get your stuff together because you might need this soon. And that's how I felt when it was in my feed. Because I was like, why am I seeing this?
So I've learned a long time ago there's no coincidence. And sorry for my pronunciation on some of these words. I am a little dry mouth right now, trying to run in. I felt really bad. But a little bit off on my personal feed, not just what's going on. But there are no coincidences. When you have something like this happen and you have these things pop up and you're not talking about them, they could be messages. They could be the universe saying, hey, pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm not a fear monger. Look, my personal thing is depending on who your higher deity is or in power, be it God or what have you, especially this is Easter for those who celebrate, and those who don't, happy Sunday. I mean, got to cover all bases here.
Right.
But I think it's time to get in touch with, the power that be and really get connected again because we've lost a lot of that. But these are signs. It's a given. It's just like if you're hanging out and a cardinal pops up and you notice the cardinal, that is a sign that someone who loves you and cares for you, usually a family member, is letting you know, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm good. And I'm on the protection circle right there. Yes, the cicadas are coming. There's two different types also. That's also a plague, the locust. There's a lot of crazy stuff. Now, if you get an EMP, we're all done. Unless you have EMP shield or something else, Faraday cages, it's going to fry everything. And if you have those electric cars, they're going bye-bye.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But
he was pointing out some stuff like, you're just driving home and all of a sudden your car shuts off. Another car you see opposite direction, it shuts off. You guys both pull off to the side of the road. You're wondering what's going on, and you check your phone. You realize your phone is down. So then it clicks that you are experiencing an EMP attack, and then it just gives you the steps on how you should traverse from leaving your vehicle to making it home and talking about how the chaos doesn't ensue initially. It usually takes a day or two, and kind of was really walking you down that path. And I'm like, why am I seeing this right now?
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's interesting because, someone was mentioning earthquakes there. As I mentioned the earthquakes as well. There are people that were talking about Planet X and Planet X making its comeback. And it's coming back our direction because we have an elliptical, this is how our path around the sun is. But Planet X, they know, goes the opposite way, perpendicular to us. And this is large. This is, this is really big, like 5 times the size of Jupiter or something to that effect. And there's reports that the tail of this planet may be even 100 million miles long and filled. I mean, comets are coming from there, asteroids coming from there. It's just filled with debris. So as this planet gets closer to the Earth or within a certain point, the poles are going to react. They're going to shift. It's going to bend. There's possibilities that the Earth's crust will be raised up from the pressure. And then once it starts passing, boom, it goes back down. And then you have cracks. You have someone was mentioning something, how the Atlantic Ocean could be cracked open, and because the Earth crust will be played around with the tectonic plates. And that was another thing that I was thinking about Planet X because everybody's called this time it's personal. Yeah, it is. It's a movie, the Anunnaki and crew. But there's a lot of things that are going on, but you should always be prepared. I mean, I hate myself because when I had, you get these UFO sightings, I don't carry the equipment that I would use to videotape UFOs or capture them on night scopes. I just don't carry them. But, like in any situation, I used to keep cameras in my car because I was having a lot of interactions traveling from point A to point B. And I'm like, I can't do it on this crappy phone. You just can't do it. All you people that have Samsungs or the Google Pixel, God bless you. You're going to be able to get night vision photos that are pretty damn good. I trust the state. I don't trust the state. I put my faith in Dave Scott. But it's great to be prepared for multiple things. I mean, you should always have some stuff in the vehicle just in case you have to stay overnight or whatever, or you get stuck like I did in an ice storm for 12 hours.
Right.
Literally 100 yards from the exit of this road that you can't get through because everybody's stuck. It does help, especially if you have kids, but you should prepare for these things. I mean, there's some people that are going really, really, really crazy. Like, we're going to get 3 days of darkness. Don't open those doors. It's going to be demons. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I have no idea if that's going to be the case, but it's pretty weird, what's taking place. And I'm kind of excited. Also, NASA's shooting some stuff into the solar eclipse. I think it's called Serpent, their Project Serpent or something like that. And wow, is that really bizarre? What the heck are they thinking?
Yeah. No, and the EMP attack is something that you can't visually see, right? So it's just something that everything around you could seem normal, and then boom, you're in that moment where you have to start making those decisions. And that's kind of what I think grabbed me about it. It was that nothing changed. Everything was the same except for all of the electronics everywhere were down. And you immediately had to kick into this other mode. And it was just telling you on how to safely make it home. And then once you make it home, how to safely navigate your family to these locations and things. And I was just thinking about it because we were talking a few weeks ago about how the continuity of government, they have bunkers that they're not going to let you in once they close the doors. And then how we need to find spots like that, which we have natural cave systems everywhere. And it just further solidified for me that we have to find these cave locations, and it should be somewhere that you should know. You should know where your closest cave system is to where you're at, because you might just have to hunker down in one of those things at some point soon.
Yeah, with a Bigfoot or a dog man inside, something.
Exactly. And I went down the rabbit hole because I'm like, then once you're in there, you have to defend your position and you have to do all these sorts of things.
Yeah, it gets really, really crazy. I mean, again, nothing could happen, but the vibe I'm getting is there is going to be an event, and something bad. It's going to be triggered. Now,
oh man,
that could be something, a natural disaster. That could be something third party, what they call FFs. That could be, maybe we're going to get, there was a guy, Cliff High, who said that come April 3rd or April 8th, we're going to have an encounter and extraterrestrials are going to reveal themselves.
Yeah.
They're literally going to disclose their themselves to the world. How awesome would that be?
I hope so. I'm hoping for that.
Cool. But as far as getting military bunkers and whatever works for you is good. And keep your eye in the sky, because I'm telling you, during these events, if you've never seen a UFO, if you've never seen something that's not from this world, you're really going to have a great opportunity. I mean, a super opportunity. Unfortunately, you have to be with a certain range from Texas all the way up to the Northeast. But it should be good.
Some of the things that that have been brought to my attention too, which would just be a good idea, because like I said, back in the day, a few years back, I used to watch Doomsday Preppers and kind of used to be like, that's crazy, that's wild. Yep. But then I'm like, nah, it's actually better to be prepared than not to be. And then I was thinking, in this video that I saw today, it pointed out some things that we should probably already be doing or already have, which is figuring out how to filtrate water, right? Just the building block of life, the thing you're really gonna need. You probably need that in your toolbox there. So at least that, and then some of the other basic things that they mentioned. But it's better to be prepared than not, because you see how with the pandemic, how things shifted overnight as far as availability goes. And it's like, well, you should have learned then. Truthfully, that I think was like learning. It was a learning.
That was an IQ test. The event
exactly,
and a lot of people failed it. I took the opportunity, because we were all locked into our chambers, not much to do, but I watched every season of Moonshiners. So it's talking about purifying water. Go online and get yourself a still, and you'll be able to make distilled water and have plenty of water for you. But there's a lot of hype being brought to this stuff, and everybody's picking up on it. And sometimes when everybody picks up on it, it's that fear mongering stuff. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. I am concerned about it, but in the grand scheme of things, what can we do? Can we stop an EMP? No. Can we stop someone using even more powerful? No. So, batten down the hatches, get extra food, and in the old days, I would have said go to Blockbuster and rent a couple movies.
Exactly. And no, it's just true. I mean, you look at there's countries right now where people in their daily life, the reality is they have to find water sources and filtrate water in current day right now. So it's like, why wouldn't you prepare yourself in the same way? Because we feel so protected, and this could never break down, this civilization or society we live in, which is so untrue, because you heard about how China is hacking into water filtration systems through the internet and prepared to shut things down at a moment's notice. So that's separate from ETs. So it's like, dude, either way, you probably should be prepared and take the advice that's being given. Why not? Why not go bury some seeds somewhere? Like, why not? It'd take you a day to go do it, and it'd be there for you at some later time. So it's like,
yeah, you should always have a plan or a destination. Like this is what we're going to do if something happens here. My brother worked in New York City. I worked in New York City, and then we had the blackout from the East Coast blackout, which was that was fun. But the plan was to meet. I'll meet you by your office because I was the furthest one down. If you're going to, go get to my father's office, our father's office, write down on a wall, take a marker with you, write it on a building, the address 50, whatever time you left, and I'll know you go there. And if you're at, if you come out of that building and you don't know what to do, write on one of the walls, when to the bus or something. Give me a clue what's going on so we can meet up. Which my younger brother didn't do any of that. He just left me, went grab my dad. So I walked back from Lower Manhattan all the way back up to the Bronx, and that was a fun trip. And let me tell you, with that type of blackout, you got to be concerned about a lot of things because it's opportunity for people to go crazy. Just like this is the reason why also when they said the day after, not Roswell, but the day after disclosure, people are going to go nuts. People are just like, well, they're aliens. They're here. You have no real power. You can't do crap. I'm going to do whatever I want. And that's what's, so there's going to be people just going crazy. And you need to have a game plan. I mean, ever since 9/11, because I'm a New York City guy, always had this small pry bar in my bag because you can get through glass. You can I don't want to get stuck on the subway. You can get out. You can turn off gas lines with it. These are the things you have to be prepared for. But as a UFO paranormal, mysterious beast researcher and investigator, not only am I going to be looking at this and saying, okay, let's everybody be prepared. And cool. I like the science aspect of solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, but I'm going to be looking for craft and weird things happening that day.
Oh yeah.
100%. I'd like to be able to get up to Niagara Falls for it because you'll see the totality for over 3 minutes, which is fantastic. But you know what? Go to an underground bunker. Apparently all these really rich billionaires have built them all, and they built them for a reason. So maybe that adds some credence to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, they're gonna true because it's been on an uptick, and I mean you're smart to do it. They're all smart to do it. If I had the money, I'd do it too. But the poor man's bunker, like I was telling Rod Martin when we had him on the show, poor man's bunker is one of these cave systems, and they are everywhere. I watch these guys on YouTube. I forget their names, but these guys go miles into caves, different caves, and it's just mind-blowing how far into the earth you can go in some of these cave systems. And it's like, dude, I need to write down one of those. They don't ever tell you where they're at, but I need to find one of these cave systems and make this a place to meet up if stuff hits the fan. You know what I mean? It's just a smart thing to do.
It's very interesting. And let me tell you, don't think it's not going to be, crowded. It'll probably be crowded with other people thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
Everybody went to, knew to go underground. Paul mentioned the ancients. Yeah, they knew. Another interesting thing that's taking place, there was communication. Someone was posting a communication between themselves and one of their good friends who is a primatologist, and they were in Africa, I believe it was, and the animals are just going nuts. The animals are bugging out, and they're looking for higher ground. Specifically, the elephants started it. They started acting really weird, and they went up, and they started heading up mountains. And when animals know something's up, something's up.
And when they're smart as damn elephants, I'm following the elephants. They're pretty smart, and they know what they're doing. So,
yeah, I mean, better know who your neighbors are. You better have some good ones.
Exactly.
There's some people in this world that's like the neighbor I have across the street is a piece of work. Yeah.
No,
But
it's scary because you see these guys and these people at these gun ranges, and they are waiting for the day that something like this happens, and they're going to be well prepared. And it's just, you have to realize when that world turns that way, you're going to be up against people like that are actually way more prepared than you are. And it's like it's going to be a battle of who's the most prepared when this thing first kicks off, as far as who survives in that initial wave. So instead
right.
of being behind the curve and learning on the fly, you might as well put a plan together now. It makes sense.
I mean, yeah. The range. I go to ranges all the time, and there's some real, just normal people. They're exercising their rights and they're training. That's it. Just to know how to use it. When you have a car, you don't just take, oh, look, I got my license, I'm going to go take my car. You have to, build up to get in the confidence to go on the highway. And I mean, there's a lot of weird things. You live out in the West Coast. That's insane.
Yeah. We just we're legitly legal to do those, to exercise Second Amendment in this household. So, we're good as far as that goes, but it's when you with the type of training that a lot of people have when they go to these ranges, like if you're not training yourself, you have no chance against these guys if you're ever pitted against someone that has that sort of training. So it's just like you got to keep those things in mind. This person could be your ally or could end up being your enemy when the stuff hits the fan. So you need to be prepared to be able to defend yourself, defend your family, and kind of know where to go or know what to do. At least the basic things to stay alive: water, how to maybe hunt some food, things we all have forgot about because we're in this society. So it's just a change of a mindset. You can still live your life, but kind of alter the thought process a little bit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's just a tad bit. And, just be careful, be safe. And, if before the solar eclipse happens and you want to put some lamb's blood over your door threshold,
do what you do.
Could be biblical, but, whatever.
All right.
I mean, that's it. Be well, be safe. Happy Easter.
Yeah, we ran out of time in the middle of a great conversation. I appreciate you coming in, Brian, and
I will try to
it's
come
all
in.
good. I know you had some stuff you had done this month, so maybe we could talk about that next time you come in. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap it up with these guys. I'm gonna get a couple commercials in, and then I'm out of here, and I'll talk to you soon.
You got to be well, everybody. Bye.
All right, Brian, take care. All right, guys, this is how we get it in, right? Happy Saturday. I'm glad everybody came in. I really appreciate everyone who came in to join us tonight. We had a great time, and can't do it without you guys. So I do want to thank the guest again, Lee Strauss, for coming in. Make sure you guys go support Lee and his YouTube channel over there. Had those awesome videos that we watched today. As well as my sighting, obviously, is on my channel. So anytime you want to show these to anybody, man, please do, because it's all about getting the data out there. Make sure the data is cataloged, making sure everyone has access to this data. It does me no good to hold my sighting to myself. Same thing with Lee, and same thing with all of you out there who have captured something or who will capture something in the future. Make sure when you bring these receipts that you put it somewhere where it can be accessed by everyone, and then we can kind of build that picture to move us forward. Great show tonight. Definitely want to thank our super chatters for tonight, which is Foxy Joe, and of course Deb from Sacramento. Do appreciate you guys for your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. And yeah, hopefully we can see you guys in Reno. As Lee said, he'll be there. I was unaware. We know Jackie, our guest from last week, she's going to be there. Jax. Deb Shakti potentially is going to be there. We know Brian Bowden plans on being there. Travis, all the guys that we talked about, super long list of people. Hopefully you can be there too. Hopefully, because I feel like for some reason something special is going to happen during this time. Maybe it's the CE5 thing. I don't know. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and just thank everybody for coming in tonight. It's been a pleasure working with you guys, having you guys come in and chime in and join the conversation. Outside of that, like I said, tomorrow's an archive show due to the holiday in the United States. Whether or not you celebrate it or not is trivial. You have a happy day, whatever you want to call tomorrow. Just enjoy yourself. Make sure you guys are here because we're going to run an archive with the live chat so you guys can still come in and participate in the live chat. And then Dave Scott picks it up for the week on Monday through Friday. And we will see you back here live again next weekend as we have a guest, Susan Hill, and then the Dirty Phil show that was tomorrow. We didn't realize was a holiday, so we moved it to next Sunday. So next weekend we got Susan Hill Saturday and then Dirty Filth on that Sunday. Outside of that, to all the listeners and viewers across the globe, we appreciate you tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? Guys, we own the night. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great tomorrow. Make sure you're here. And I'll see you next weekend. You guys take care.